January 28th, 2022. Disregard, even the disregard itself, constantly. It will help through the unwinding and releasing for all types of the delusive attachments from the samsara. Samsara is derived from the delusion and the delusive attachments, being deluded to fixate towards something that has nothing to do with fixation. Therefore, blessing samsara is to help through unwinding and releasing only. Uninvolved, even within the unvolved itself, constantly, helping through releasing of the delusive attachment in all forms. From the end of the hairlines to the end of the toenails, which has been fixated upon. All the senses and sense objects, things that are near or far, which are fixated upon. That is samsara. Samsara within the routines, samsara within activities, monthly, yearly, samsara within living the life, within the whole life. There are only the delusions and delusive attachment that overlay. Disregard, even the disregard itself constantly. It will cut off the cycle of circling naturally within the mental process, internally and externally. Uninvolved, even within the unvolved itself, constantly. It will help through the unwinding from all the delusive attachments and fixation within all things or within oneself. The delusion to fixate upon the looking and the knowing itself. Constantly disregard, even from the disregard itself, so that it will purify the delusive attachment and fixation within the seeing and the knowing. This is called knowledge, insights, and opinions. Deludedly fixated upon opinions. Deludedly fixated upon knowledge and opinions, which is called deludedly fixated upon wisdoms. Deludedly fixated upon the knowing. That is fixated upon something that is not about fixation. When knowing grasping for knowing, it gets worse, creating more of samsara. Grasping something that is not about grasping within itself. Knowing doesn't grasp itself as it is, but there is a delusion to grasp the knowing. Grasping something that is not about grasping, therefore, is getting worse in circling. Therefore, the circling of samsara within knowing and not knowing. All the variations of mind, of knowledge and opinions. Being deluded to grasp something that is not about grasping totally. Knowing doesn't grasp itself, but there is a delusion to grasp the knowing. grasping knowing and not knowing. Therefore, it becomes samsara of knowledge and opinions, samsara of wisdom, samsara of opinions. Therefore, help through unwinding and releasing only. In blessing, there is no other duties. It's not the role of a blesser to overlay on top of knowledge and opinions. There is no role to add more on top of all these, not the role of a blesser to emphasize on all these. Constantly uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. For blessers, there is no role to add more on top of opinions. There's no role for blessers to add more of opinions and meanings. It means that for all blessers, there's no role to make it worse. No grasping, even the non-grasping itself as it is not about grasping. It's not about grasping. No grasping, even the non-grasping itself as it is. Release the delusive attachment for samsara constantly. Help the samsara to release from the delusive attachment and fixation constantly. Giving ending as helping for samsara constantly. This has nothing to do with forms. This has nothing to do with the concoction or any assumption. Why is it so? Because it's uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. Constantly uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. Let's continue to purify the deluded viewpoints constantly. Let's continue to make a conclusion to purify the delusive attachment or the upatan constantly. This is not about dwelling and fixating upon everything whatsoever. It turns into personal samsara, samsara at large. Therefore, for all blessings, there is no other roles at all. Don't make it worse. Don't add anything of one's own opinions and meanings and knowledge. For samsara, that cannot be done. Disregard, even the disregard itself only. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself only. No grasping is as it is. No grasping, even the non-grasping only. Otherwise, all the formed up of body and mind will turn into being deluded to form and formlessness, being deluded to the body and the mind. Therefore, the formed up of form and formlessness, body and mind, is to be continued as a medium for blessing samsara. It is not to form up this body and mind and be deluded to it all by oneself. There is no need to find the ending point. So long as samsara is not yet ended, is not yet ending. Continue to help through the unwinding and releasing. There is no need to ask when is it going to end, this samsara. So long as samsara still remains unending, then it's still unending, not yet ending. Continue to end to help samsara constantly until samsara is no longer samsara. Then it will be called ending. This is not to be obsessed with questioning when is it going to end, on and on. That is grasping. Being deluded to grasp the belief values regarding ending for the purpose of ending, grasping for ending, that is unending. The grasping itself is unending, wanting to end, but the grasping itself is not ended. So long as samsara is unending, there is no ending. Therefore, help to give ending constantly for all blessers. This is the only role. Not to be preoccupied to quarrels with all these ideas about ending or not ending. The Buddhas and Arahants still exist amidst a whole samsara. So long as samsara is not yet ended, the blessing also yet to end. There's still a continuation of blessing samsara. Until there's no longer samsara, no longer the delusive attachment and delusion circling, all the delusion within fixation and attachment delusively, within the infinite samsara, within the infinite universes, until there's no longer the streams of the delusion within fixation, within an attachment to the body and the mind, within the form and formlessness, then it will be called ending. So long as the stream of the delusion within the fixation and attachment, which is left within the earth, air, water and fire, within all things, still there must be the support to help give ending, to help unwind and release disregard from the disregard itself. No grasping, even the non-grasping itself continuously. Then it will purify for both the vibhak of the delusion and the delusive attachment within any areas, overlaying within senses and sense objects, within earth, air, water and fire and the space. then all the delusion and delusive attachment within all these spaces, within all the areas, within all the elements will be all purified. Because if all these streams still left overlaying by the delusion and delusive attachments on top of all the elements, there will be the factors and the causes that will create samsara constantly and continuously. Have you ever heard of the newborn of the defilement? It's not only about the perfection or the great perfection that creates the avatar newborn. The defilement also gives a newborn. The samutai or the causes of suffering and the suffering also creates a newborn. Each emotions of the vibhak, each emotion of the delusive attachment, each emotion of the delusion, which overlay within the earth, air, water and fire, or within the space elements, it has been given a newborn as a samutai already. It is instantly becoming a factor to create the cycle of the becoming. When coming into contact, it already gives rise. It arises of the cycle of becoming through the perception. Any types of the karmic difficulties that have been left a lot within any place. Anyone who comes into contact within those places, it gives rise to the mind for those who come into contact. Therefore, purify everything, help through the unwinding and releasing in all places, even towards the climate. Disregard from the disregard itself, uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. No grasping, even the non-grasping itself. Then it will not be wrong towards the Saccadhamma. It will not be wrong towards the Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. What does it mean? Not wrong. There's no delusion to grasp. Then it's not wrong. Because all things and all elements are not grasping within themselves as they are. When there is a delusion to grasp, it's wrong. It's wrong to Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. It's wrong to the Saccadhamma, the truth. When there is the delusion to grasp, it's wrong to the essence of that which has nothing to do with grasping. Deludedly attaching is wrong to the non-attachment. Being deluded to attach towards something that is not about attachment. It is wrong to the non-attachment. Deludedly attached is wrong to the non-attachment. Non-attachment is as it is, but there is an attachment. No grasping is as it is in its nature, but there is deludedly grasping. all the suffering and all the pressures will be immediately leaping. Deludedly setting up and expecting towards something that has nothing to do with setting up or expectations. Deludedly being upright towards something that has nothing to do with obligations. As a result, all pressures are immediately leaping and being stressed. Every moment there has been deludedly setting up and expecting, being upright. Therefore, it creates suffering immediately. Right at that moment of the mind, there is the Vedana. There is a pleasure. There is an immediate stress. Deludedly setting up and expecting towards something that has nothing to do with setting up or expectations. Delusively being upright towards something that has nothing to do with obligations. Disregard from the disregard itself, that which has nothing to do with attachment or non-attachment, so that it will be helping through the unwinding and releasing. This is a great anupab, great mighty force, beyond the crude form and formlessness, beyond the crude body and mind. This is not to compete for grasping something that has nothing to do with grasping for concentration, mindfulness, contemplation, special insights and wisdoms. Grasping for something that has nothing to do with grasping for anicca and anatta within Dharma. No grasping, even the non-grasping itself. This is not about something that is not grasping. It's not about grasping or not grasping. No grasping, even the non-grasping, is as it is. Similarly, everything is non-attached to itself. It is not about someone who is attached or not attached to anything. No role to emphasize or repeat or accumulate anything. No role to accumulate the knower, the seer, opinions and meanings, or emphasizing thoughts, recalls, opinions and meanings, feelings and emotions. Help through unwinding and releasing only. Disregard, even the disregard itself constantly, so that it will help release all the delusive attachment within the opinions and meanings, within the knower, within the opinions. Any states of mind, any conditions are not to grasp themselves. Make a conclusion to purify towards ending. Don't let there be any delusive attachment remaining. Disregard is not to grasp itself, uninvolved is not to grasp itself, continue to purify onwards. All the karmic habits of the delusive attachments, of the vibhak of the delusive attachments, it is deludedly fixated towards something that has nothing to do with fixation. Disregard is not to grasp itself, it's not about disregard itself. There are not that many sentences. However, each sentence can give ending to samsara, to the whole samsara, not just closing the woeful realms. It can even give ending to the whole samsara, not just closing the woeful realms. May all types of karma, all cases of karma through words, thoughts and actions within the physical world and samsara, which is conditioned by the delusive attachment and delusion, may everything be forgiven. Ahosi, Ahosi, Ahosi.